The mysterious armor. The battle for Earth had been raging for years. Alien ships darkened the sky, their weapons devastating the cities below. Humanity was fighting for survival, but the odds were stacked against them. The aliens were advanced, their technology far beyond anything Earth had. Despite the courage and determination of the human soldiers, it seemed like defeat was inevitable. Then something extraordinary happened. On the outskirts of a war-torn city, a small group of human soldiers made an unexpected discovery. Deep within the ruins of an old building, hidden beneath the rubble, they found something that had been lost for centuries. It was a suit of armor unlike anything they had ever seen before. The soldiers had been sent to investigate an ancient site that had been recently uncovered by the ongoing conflict. It was thought to be an old human military base, abandoned long ago. But when they ventured inside, they found something far more significant than they ever expected. The armor was large and sleek, its surface shimmering in a way that made it look almost alive. It was made of a strange metallic material that seemed to pulse with energy. The soldiers carefully examined it, but none of them could figure out what it was. It didn't belong to any known civilization, not even the advanced alien forces they had been fighting. One of the soldiers, Sergeant Jason Hale, was curious. He was known for his bravery on the battlefield, but he wasn't one to take unnecessary risks. However, something about the armor called to him. He approached it cautiously, his hand shaking slightly as he reached out to touch the smooth surface. The moment his fingers made contact, a strange energy shot up his arm, sending a rush of warmth through his entire body. He pulled his hand back in shock, but the armor seemed to react, glowing softly in the dim light. "Did you see that?" one of the soldiers asked, wide-eyed. Jason didn't respond immediately. He was too stunned. The armor felt alive, as if it was waiting for something, or someone. His heart raced, and his mind swirled with confusion and awe. He had no idea what was happening, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this armor was meant for him. Another soldier, Private Richards, was quick to suggest they move on. "We shouldn't be messing with this thing," he said, his voice laced with fear. "We don't know what it is, and it could be dangerous." But Jason wasn't listening. The moment he made contact with the armor, a voice echoed in his mind, soft and clear. The soldiers exchanged confused looks, but they trusted him. They had seen Jason face death countless times, and he had never backed down. But this was different. This armor was different. In that moment, the soldiers knew they were about to face something unlike anything they had ever encountered. The armor was more than just a piece of technology. It was a force, and Jason was its chosen bearer. The future of humanity rested on his shoulders, and the war was about to change forever. The battlefield was silent for a moment, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Jason stood motionless, his fingers flexing as he adjusted to the new weight of the armor. The air around him felt charged, electric with an energy he could not yet understand. His body was filled with a strange sensation, both power and calmness combined. He could feel the armor's connection to him, as if it was an extension of his own being. The distant sound of alien ships grew louder, snapping Jason back into reality. His fellow soldiers were still on edge, unsure of what to do. Their hands gripped their weapons tightly, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. They knew Jason had always been a leader, but this was something else entirely. They watched, waiting for him to make the next move. Jason's gaze remained fixed ahead. He could see the dark shapes of the alien ships in the sky, their sleek, menacing silhouettes blocking out the sun. The invaders were closing in, and it wouldn't be long before they arrived on the ground. His heart raced, but it wasn't fear he felt. It was a deep primal sense of purpose. This armor, whatever it was, had chosen him. And now, it was time to use it. "Jason," Sergeant Martinez called out, his voice laced with concern. "What do we do now?" Jason didn't answer right away. He reached up and touched the helmet, his fingers brushing against the smooth surface. In that instant, the armor responded to his thoughts. A series of lights flickered across the suit, and the air around him seemed to hum with energy. It was as if the armor was alive, aware of his every movement, every thought. He could feel it growing stronger, more powerful. The suit was integrating with him in ways he couldn't explain. Every second, he felt more attuned to it, as though the very essence of the armor was merging with his own soul. For the first time in months, Jason felt hope. "We fight," Jason said finally, his voice calm but full of resolve. "We fight, and we win." The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. They had never seen Jason like this before. Confident, almost unstoppable. But they trusted him. They had fought beside him for years, and if anyone could lead them through this, it was him. As Jason surveyed the battlefield, his mind raced. The alien ships were getting closer. He could see the massive warships hovering in the distance, their weapons systems locking onto their position. The alien invaders had never seen anything like this before. They had conquered countless worlds, but humanity had always been beneath their notice. They had underestimated the human spirit. They had thought that humans were weak. Now, Jason would show them how wrong they were. With a deep breath, Jason raised his right arm, and the armor responded instantly. A sharp metallic noise echoed as a bright blue energy field activated around him. The suit had formed a protective barrier, its strength unprecedented. It was like nothing the aliens had ever encountered, nothing any civilization had ever encountered. The armor had the power to block energy-based weapons, deflect incoming fire, and withstand unimaginable forces. Jason turned to his team, his voice steady but commanding. "Prepare yourselves. The aliens are coming, and we need to be ready." The soldiers began to fall into formation, but they couldn't take their eyes off Jason. The sight of him in the armor was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. They had seen many things on the battlefield, but this was different. The armor was more than just protection. It was a symbol of something much greater, a promise that humanity had not been defeated, not yet. Jason, standing tall in the midst of the devastation, was proof of that. The alien ships were almost on them now. Jason could feel the ground shake as they began their descent. The air was thick with tension, and every soldier could feel the weight of the coming battle. The aliens had underestimated them before, but that mistake would cost them dearly. As the first wave of alien forces landed, Jason's heart beat faster. The energy in the armor seemed to respond, growing stronger with each passing second. The soldiers had taken their positions, their weapons raised and ready, but they knew the fight would not be easy. The aliens were brutal and relentless, and their technology was far superior to anything humanity had ever developed. But they hadn't counted on one thing: humanity's will to survive. Jason stepped forward, his movements precise and confident. As he did, the armor responded to his every command. A series of weapons appeared at his side, each one powerful enough to take down an alien soldier with a single shot. The suit had built-in energy weapons, capable of firing concentrated blasts of energy that could pierce even the thickest of alien armor. It was a weapon unlike anything the enemy had ever seen. The first alien soldier approached, its massive form towering over the humans. It wielded a glowing energy blade, the weapon crackling with power. Jason didn't hesitate. He raised his arm, and a powerful blast of energy shot from the gauntlet, sending the alien flying backward. The blast was so strong that it left a crater in the ground where the alien had stood. The suit's power was unimaginable, and Jason realized, with a sense of awe, that he had only scratched the surface. "Open fire," Sergeant Martinez shouted. The soldiers let loose a barrage of gunfire, but the aliens were relentless. More ships landed, and more soldiers emerged, each one more dangerous than the last. Jason felt the energy of the armor surge again, and without thinking, he charged forward, leading the charge against the alien forces. The battle was on. The alien invaders thought they were unstoppable. They thought they had the upper hand, that nothing could stand in their way. But they had no idea what they were up against. They hadn't counted on the power of the human spirit, or the power of the armor that had chosen a human to wear it. As Jason unleashed the full power of the armor, the tide of battle began to shift. The alien invaders, once so confident in their dominance, were beginning to realize they had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would cost them everything. The battle for Earth was far from over. But with the armor on his side, Jason was ready to show the aliens that humanity was not so easily defeated. The sky above Earth darkened as more alien warships descended. They were everywhere, filling the skies with their massive, sleek silhouettes, casting long shadows over the devastated landscape. Their arrival was the beginning of the end for humanity. At least, that's what the aliens had believed. They had underestimated humanity's will to survive, and now they were about to pay the price. Jason felt the power of the alien-proof armor course through his body as he prepared for the coming storm. The ground beneath his boots trembled as more enemy soldiers poured out of their ships, their eyes glowing with malice. These were no ordinary invaders. They were the best of their kind, sent to crush any resistance with overwhelming force. And yet, here was Jason, standing tall, the armor glinting in the dim light, ready to fight back with a strength they could never have imagined. "Hold the line," Sergeant Martinez barked, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "We can't let them break through our defenses." Jason nodded, his gaze steady. The soldiers around him were already in position, but they were nervous. This wasn't a fight they were prepared for. The aliens had advanced weaponry, technology far beyond their own. The soldiers were armed with standard rifles and energy pistols, but they couldn't hope to match the alien forces in raw power. That was where Jason came in. With a deep breath, Jason activated the suit's energy shield, and a soft hum filled the air as the protective barrier enveloped him. He had no idea how long the shield would last, but he was ready to face whatever came his way. His fingers tightened around the weapons that had materialized at his side, blasters capable of firing devastating blasts of concentrated energy. This was no longer about survival. This was about retaliation. The first wave of alien soldiers charged forward, their weapons crackling with energy. Jason didn't hesitate. He lifted his arm and fired, sending a beam of pure energy toward the advancing aliens. The beam hit its mark, and the alien soldiers were sent flying backward, their bodies disintegrating on impact. But the alien forces were relentless. They kept coming, undeterred by the destruction Jason had just caused. "Focus fire," Jason shouted to the troops behind him. "Don't give them a chance to regroup." The soldiers, though hesitant at first, followed his lead. The sound of gunfire and energy blasts filled the air as they began to fight back with newfound determination. The tide of the battle was slowly turning in their favor, but it wasn't enough. The alien invaders had sheer numbers on their side. Jason could see them pushing forward, despite the casualties. He charged again, his feet barely touching the ground as the armor propelled him forward with incredible speed. His heart raced, not out of fear, but out of the thrill of the fight. He was no longer just a soldier. He was a symbol of humanity's defiance. The armor, this alien-proof suit, was a gift that would turn the tide of the battle and change the course of history. As he neared the enemy lines, Jason unleashed another burst of energy from his gauntlet, creating a shockwave that sent a dozen aliens crashing to the ground. The power of the suit was overwhelming. Every movement felt natural, every strike precise. Jason was in complete control. But the aliens were adapting quickly. They began to deploy new tactics, coordinating their attacks with greater efficiency. Some of the soldiers carried shields, blocking the energy blasts, while others deployed energy-based weapons capable of piercing through the armor's defenses. Jason could feel the strain on the suit as the enemy pushed harder. He was starting to notice small signs of wear, scratches, dents, and small cracks in the armor. But he refused to let that stop him. He couldn't. Not now. "Jason, we need backup." One of the soldiers shouted, his voice filled with panic. A group of aliens had surrounded him, and their weapons were closing in. Jason turned just in time to see the soldier fall, an alien soldier's blade plunging into his chest. The sight filled him with a new sense of anger, a surge of rage that fueled his next move. "No one dies today," Jason growled through gritted teeth. He launched himself at the group of aliens, moving faster than he ever had before. The armor, responding to his determination, pushed his limits. His legs pumped with power as he charged through the aliens, knocking them aside with ease. One alien attempted to strike him with a jagged energy blade, but Jason reacted instinctively, grabbing the weapon mid-strike and twisting it from the alien's grasp. With a swift movement, he threw the alien across the battlefield, sending it crashing into a group of its comrades. The soldiers watched in awe as Jason tore through the alien forces. The once feared invaders, who had come with the confidence of conquerors, were now on the defensive. It wasn't just the technology of the armor that was making the difference. It was the spirit of the human inside it. Jason's movements became a blur as he continued to fight, unleashing the full might of the suit's weapons. He fired energy blasts in every direction, each shot hitting its mark with deadly precision. The aliens were scattering, realizing for the first time that they were not invincible. They had underestimated humanity. Despite the chaos, Jason could hear the sound of reinforcements arriving. He knew that this was only the beginning. The alien forces would not give up so easily, but they had made a grave mistake. They had thought that humans were weak, easy to defeat. Now, they would learn the truth. The real fight had only just begun. As the battle raged on, Jason felt a deep sense of purpose. The armor, which had been forged in secrecy, was more than just protection. It was humanity's weapon, and with it they would show the galaxy that no one, no matter how powerful, could ever truly defeat them. The alien forces had come to Earth thinking they would conquer, but now they were facing something far worse than they had imagined. Humanity's will to fight, and with every passing moment, that will grew stronger. The battle raged on, and Jason's body moved in sync with the alien-proof armor, almost as if it had become an extension of himself. His mind was sharp, focused entirely on the mission. The alien forces, though numerous, were beginning to falter in the face of relentless human resistance. But the aliens weren't going to back down easily. They had come to Earth with the goal of total domination, and they were willing to sacrifice anything to achieve that. Jason could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every blast of energy he fired, every alien he sent tumbling to the ground, was a reminder that the fate of humanity rested in his hands. He was the last line of defense, and he wasn't about to let humanity fall. Not now, not ever. The alien commanders, sensing their forces were losing ground, began to issue new orders, and the battlefield quickly shifted. Massive war machines, previously hidden in the shadows, began to emerge from the alien warships. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Towering, heavily armored vehicles equipped with weapons that could obliterate entire squads of soldiers in seconds. Jason knew they couldn't withstand this kind of firepower for long. The humans were outmatched in terms of sheer numbers and advanced technology. The aliens had war machines that could level entire cities, and the armor Jason wore, though incredible, had its limits. It was time for a new strategy, one that would test everything he had learned about combat and survival. "Martinez, fall back," Jason shouted into his comm, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "We need to draw them in, get to higher ground and regroup." Sergeant Martinez, though reluctant, gave a quick nod. "Fall back. Everyone, fall back to the rally point." The soldiers moved quickly, retreating to a higher vantage point, where they could hold their ground and prepare for the next wave. Jason followed them, his boots thudding heavily against the ground as he moved toward the rally point. The alien forces, sensing the humans' retreat, pushed forward relentlessly. The ground shook beneath Jason's feet as the war machines lumbered closer, their massive weapons charging with destructive energy. But Jason had a plan. He wasn't about to let the aliens have the upper hand. He turned to face the oncoming threat, his gauntlet glowing with power. The alien armor, which had once seemed so invincible to the invaders, was now a symbol of humanity's determination. Jason's helmet buzzed as he accessed the suit's targeting systems. A map of the battlefield flickered in front of his eyes, showing him the locations of the alien war machines and their weak points. It was time to turn the tables. With a surge of adrenaline, Jason leaped forward, his armor propelling him with incredible speed. He dashed through the chaos, dodging blasts of energy from the alien war machines, and closed the gap between him and the nearest one. His heart raced as he calculated the perfect moment to strike. Then, with a single, precise movement, Jason activated the suit's most powerful weapon, the electromagnetic pulse cannon. The cannon, designed to disable enemy technology, hummed with energy, charging for a moment before releasing a concentrated burst of electromagnetic force. The blast hit the alien war machine squarely in its exposed rear, causing it to tremble and then sputter to a halt. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the battle was lost. The war machine, despite the pulse, continued its approach, but then Jason saw something that made his heart leap: a vulnerability. The armor had a gap in its defenses, right where the machine's power core was located. Without hesitation, Jason raised his blaster, aimed, and fired. The shot pierced the machine's outer shell and struck the core directly. A loud explosion rocked the battlefield, sending a shockwave that knocked nearby soldiers off their feet. The alien war machine was destroyed, and the enemy forces momentarily staggered back, unsure of how to react. "That's how you fight back," Jason muttered to himself, his voice grim but full of resolve. He knew the aliens wouldn't give up so easily, but this was the first major victory humanity had scored in this war. They had learned how to fight back, how to turn the tide of battle, and they weren't about to stop now. The alien commanders, realizing that their forces were faltering, began to regroup and send reinforcements. But it was too late. The human soldiers, inspired by Jason's actions, began to fight with renewed vigor. They saw the impossible happen. They saw one man, wearing the very armor the aliens had once thought unbreakable, shatter their forces with nothing more than skill, determination, and the will to survive. The alien fleet continued to descend upon Earth, but their victory was no longer certain. The humans had proven that they would not go down without a fight, and with each passing moment, the warriors of Earth became stronger. Jason's name was becoming a legend, whispered among the soldiers as they watched him lead the charge with unwavering courage. But even as they celebrated their first victory, Jason knew that the real battle was far from over. The aliens had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, but now they would see what humans were truly capable of. This was no longer just a war for survival. It was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. Jason stood tall, his armor gleaming with the reflection of the destruction around him. His mission had only just begun, and the aliens would soon learn the hard truth: humanity was not to be underestimated. The battle had just begun, but one thing was clear: humanity was ready to fight back, and they would not stop until every last alien invader was defeated. The alien forces would learn to fear humanity's wrath, and the galaxy would never forget what happened on Earth that day. The ground still trembled from the explosion, and the smoke from the wreckage of the alien war machine swirled into the air. Jason, standing amidst the chaos, took a deep breath. The battle was far from over, but the victory they had just achieved had given humanity something they hadn't had in a long time: a glimmer of hope. It wasn't just the armor that had made a difference. It was the resolve of the soldiers, the resilience of humanity that had started to turn the tide. The alien forces regrouped quickly, sending more reinforcements to the front lines. The massive warships that had once seemed invincible now hovered in the distance, their weapons primed and ready. But despite the overwhelming firepower of their enemies, humanity was not backing down. The human soldiers, inspired by Jason's courage and determination, had begun to mount a defense that the aliens had never anticipated. Jason glanced around at his fellow soldiers, his comrades in arms. Their faces, smeared with dirt and streaked with sweat, were filled with determination. They had seen what the armor could do, and they had seen how one man could make a difference. Now they were all ready to fight, to push back against the alien invaders who had underestimated the true strength of humanity. "Form up, prepare for another wave," Jason barked, his voice cutting through the noise of the battlefield. His team quickly fell into position, ready to face whatever the aliens threw at them next. The humans had learned from their first victory, and now they were more prepared than ever to continue the fight. As the alien reinforcements arrived, Jason's helmet displayed the approaching threat. His targeting system locked onto the nearest enemy warship, a behemoth of a ship brimming with weapons. The enemy fleet had sent their best, hoping to crush the humans once and for all. But Jason wasn't about to let that happen. "We've got this," he muttered under his breath, his eyes narrowing with focus. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for the future of humanity, for every man, woman, and child who still believed in hope. The aliens may have had advanced technology, but they didn't understand the strength of human will. The human soldiers opened fire, their weapons unleashing a barrage of energy at the advancing alien fleet. Jason joined in, his armor's weapon systems firing relentlessly as he moved through the battlefield with speed and precision. The alien forces were powerful, but they were not invincible, and humanity had learned the alien technology's weaknesses, exploiting them with ruthless efficiency. "Incoming," one of the soldiers shouted, pointing towards a massive alien ship descending from the sky. The warship released a series of devastating missiles that streaked towards their position. Jason didn't hesitate. He dashed forward, using the armor's enhanced speed to close the distance between him and the missiles in seconds. The suit's defensive systems kicked in, creating a protective barrier around him just as the missiles detonated. The blast sent shockwaves through the air, but Jason stood unharmed, his armor absorbing the impact. Jason didn't waste a second. The alien ship's weapon systems were still vulnerable from the blast. With a surge of power, he charged forward, using his electromagnetic pulse cannon once again. The pulse struck the alien ship's core, sending a surge of energy through its systems. The warship staggered in the air, its systems failing as its engines sputtered and died. The alien vessel plummeted from the sky in a fiery explosion. "One down, many more to go," Jason said to himself, his heart pounding with adrenaline. The alien forces were beginning to realize that this wasn't going to be an easy victory. The humans had discovered the weaknesses in their war machines, and they were using that knowledge to turn the tide of battle. The alien commanders, now desperate, ordered their troops to unleash their most deadly weapon, a massive cannon capable of wiping out entire cities in a single shot. The cannon fired, its energy beams slicing through the air like a laser. The ground shook as the beam hit the earth, creating a massive crater in the center of the battlefield. But the humans weren't finished yet. They had one last card to play. "Jason, we need you to hit their core," Sergeant Martinez shouted, his voice urgent. Jason nodded. He knew what he had to do. This was the final stand. With a fierce determination, he launched himself toward the alien cannon, using his suit's thrusters to boost his speed. He had only one shot at this. As he closed in, the alien cannon fired again. But this time Jason was ready. He leaped into the air, dodging the blast, and in mid-flight, fired a devastating shot directly at the cannon's core. The shot hit its mark. The alien cannon exploded in a blinding flash, sending a shockwave that knocked everyone off their feet. The alien forces, now facing their most devastating defeat yet, began to retreat, their morale shattered. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. Jason stood in the midst of the destruction, his breathing heavy but steady. He had done it. Humanity had done it. They had proven to the galaxy that they would not be subjugated, that they were not weak. The aliens had learned the hard way that when they threatened humanity, they were not facing helpless prey. They were facing warriors. As the alien fleet began to retreat into the void of space, Jason looked out across the battlefield. The soldiers around him cheered, their voices echoing in the distance. But Jason knew that this victory, though significant, was only the beginning. The battle for Earth had just begun, and humanity would not rest until every alien invader was driven from their planet. The aliens had thought humanity was weak, but now they knew the truth. The fight wasn't over yet, but humanity was ready, and with the power of the armor and the unyielding spirit of its people, they would fight to the end. The aliens had learned that the true strength of humanity was something they could never hope to conquer. And as the sun began to set over the battlefield, the soldiers of Earth knew one thing for sure: they had only just begun.